Okay, so in this video, we're going to try to solve a system of equations using matrices. Okay, so right here, we have a system of three equations with three variables. Okay, we have x plus 2y plus z equals 8, 2x plus y minus z equals 4, and x plus y plus 3z equals 7. Okay, so we have three equations and three variables. So we're going to try to solve this system of equations using matrices. Okay, so a matrix is just a different representation of a system of equations, just like you can represent a system of equations using variables and equal signs and whatnot. You can also represent a system of equations using a matrix. Okay, so I'll show you how to write this system of equations using a matrix. Okay, so I'm going to just draw a matrix right here. Like so. Okay, and I'm going to draw a straight line right here. Okay, so I am going to look at all the coefficients of the variables, okay, in each equation. Okay, so right here I have x, so that's just 1 times x, right? So I'm just going to write 1 here, okay, and I'm going to go sideways, all right? I'm just going to look at the first equation. The coefficient for y is 2, okay, so I'm just going to write 2 here, okay? And the coefficient in front of z is 1, so I'm going to write 1 here, okay? Now, on the other side of this vertical line, I'm going to write all the coefficients. I'm sorry, I'm going to write all the constants or the solutions, okay, as it were. So it's 8, so I'm on the other side, I'm just going to write 8 right here. Okay, 8 right here. Okay, so now that's the first row, okay, for the matrix. So I'm going to look at the second equation. I'm going to look at all the coefficients. It's 2 for x, so I'm going to write 2 here. Okay, it's 1 in front of y, so I'm going to write 1. Okay, it's negative z, so that's negative 1 times z, right? So I'm going to write negative 1 here. Okay, and it's 4 on the other side, so I'm just going to write 4 like that. Okay, now that's the second row. Okay, so now I'm going to look at the third equation. Okay, and I'm going to write all the coefficients. Okay, so it's 1 in front of x, so I'm just going to write 1 here. Okay, and it's 1 in front of y, so I'm going to have 1 here. Okay, and it's 3 in front of z, so it's 3 right here. Okay, and it's 7 on the other side, so I'm just going to write 7 right here, like that. Okay, so as you can see, we have a 3 by 4 matrix. Okay, I got 3 rows, okay, and 4 columns in total, right? Okay, so this is the matrix representation of this system of equations, okay, like that. All right, so the next thing to do is to solve this system of equations using this matrix, right? Okay, so essentially what I want to end up with, okay, I'm just going to do a bunch of row operations, okay, so-called row operations, and I want to end up with a matrix that's looking like this, okay? Right, so I want to have 1 here, 0 here, 0 here. I want to have 0 here, 1 here, and 0 here, and I want to have 0 here, 0 here, and 1 here, like that, okay? And I'm going to have some number here, and some number here, and I'm going to have some number right here, okay? And this column right here is going to be my solution, okay? Right, so this is what I want to end up with. I want to have 1s in these diagonal directions, okay? Right. So I want to take this matrix, okay, and I want to turn it into this matrix, okay? So I can get my solution. All right? So let's do that. But before we go further, I want to talk about some general rules of row operations, okay, in matrices, right? So there are 3 general rules I want to go over with you, okay? So number 1, okay, you can add rows. You can add different rows in a matrix. So you can add rows, okay? Right, so you can add row 1 plus row 2 or row 2 plus row 3 and so on. So you can add rows. Number 2, you can multiply rows. Okay, so you can take any row, okay? You can take row 1, for example, and you can multiply it by 2, or you can even multiply it by -3. Okay, you can multiply it by a positive number, you can multiply it by a negative number, or you can even multiply it by a fraction. Okay, so you can multiply rows. And number 3, okay, you can swap rows. Okay, so you can swap rows. You can take any 2 rows. You can take row 1 and row 2, and you can swap them. Okay, or you can take row 1 and row 3, and you can swap them, and so on. So these are the 3 general rules of row operations. Okay, all right. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, so let's solve this, right? So the first thing I want to do is I want to get all these 1s, okay, in the diagonal positions, okay? So that's the first thing you want to do. So you want to get all these 1s here, okay? I already have 1s in some positions, so that makes things easier for us, okay? After you get all the 1s, okay, you want to make all the values below those 1s, okay, these 3 positions, all equal to 0, okay? So you want to get all the 1s in the diagonal positions, okay? And then after that, you want to get all the bottom values equal to 0, okay? After that, okay, you can attack all these top values, okay? Right? And then you can make them all equal to 0, okay? And then you're going to have your solution, okay? All right, so let's do that. Okay, so I'm going to erase this matrix right here, okay? All right, so the first thing I want to do, okay, I already have 1 here, okay, so that's taken care of, okay? So I want to make this guy equal to 0, right? So what I can do, okay, going from here to here, okay, all right, I can take row 1, okay, and multiply by -2, okay, and add it to row 2, and that's going to be my new row 2, okay, right? Row 1 is going to stay the same. I'm not going to do anything to row 1, and row 3 is going to stay the same. I'm not going to do anything to row 3 either, okay, right? So row 1 stays the same, so it's 1, 2, 1, 8, 8. Okay? Now, I'm going to take row 1 and multiply it by -2. So it's 1 times -2. That's -2 plus 2. That's 0. So I get a 0 right here. Okay, that's what I want, right? Now, I'm going to take 2 times -2. That's -4. -4 plus 1. That's -3. Okay? Now, 1 times -2. That's -2. -2 minus 1, okay, that's also -3, like that, okay. All right, and on the other side, I have -2 times 8, okay, that's -16, and -16 plus 4, that's -12, okay, like so. And row 3 is going to stay the same, so I'm just going to write 1, 1, 3, 7, like that. Okay? Okay, so far so good, right? Okay, so I got 1 here and I got 0 here. So the next thing I want to do, I want to make this 1 at the bottom equal to 0, right? Okay, so I'm going to come along here. Okay, I'm going to get a matrix here. Okay, right. Okay, so what I want to do, I want to take row 1, okay, and multiply it by -1, okay, and add it to row 3, and that's going to be my new row 3. Okay, row 1 stays the same, row 2 stays the same. Okay, right, so let's do that. 1, 2, 1, 8. Row 1 stays the same, row 2 stays the same, 0, -3, -3, -12. Okay, row 1 multiplies times -1 plus row 3 is going to be my new row 3. Okay, so -1 times 1, that's -1, plus 1, that's 0. Okay, -1 times 2, that's -2, plus 1. Okay, that's -1. Okay, and -1 times -1, okay, excuse me, 1 times -1, that is -1, plus 3, that's 2. Okay, -1 times 8, that's -8. -8 plus 7, that's -1. Okay, like so. So now I got 1, 0, 0 right here. Okay, now the next thing I want to do is I want to make this -3 equal to 1. Okay, so I'm going to come up here. Okay, so what I can do is I can take row 2 and multiply it by -1/3. Okay, and that's going to be my new row 2. Row 1 stays the same, row 3 stays the same. Okay, so let's do that. So I'm going to erase this matrix. Okay, row 1 stays the same, 1, 2, 1, 8. Row 2 gets multiplied by -1/3. Okay, so 0 times -1/3, that's 0. Okay, -3 times -1/3, that's 1. Okay, and that's what we want. Okay, -3 times -1/3, that's also 1. Okay, -12 times -1/3, that's 4. Right here. Okay, right, and row 3 stays the same. So 0, -1, -2, and -1, like that. Okay, all right. So far, so good. Things are looking good. Okay, got 1, 0, 0, 1. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I want to make this guy -1 equal to 0. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, so what I can do, I can take row 2 and add it to row 3. Okay, and that's going to be my new row 3. Row 2 plus row 3. Okay, is going to be my new row 3. Okay, row 1 stays the same, row 2 stays the same this time. Okay, so let's write that down here. Okay, so row 1 stays the same, 1, 2, 1, 8. Okay, row 2 stays the same, 0, 1, 1, 4. Okay. And for row 3, row 2 plus row 3 is my new row 3. So 0 plus 0 is 0. Okay. 1 plus negative 1, that's 0. Okay. 1 plus 2, that's 3. And 4 plus negative 1, that's 3. Like that. Okay. So things are looking good. We got 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, like that. And now I want to make this guy equal to 1. Okay, so let's do that. Right. So row 1's going to stay the same. Row 2 is going to stay the same. Okay, row 3, I can take row 3 and multiply it times negative 1/3. Okay, and that's going to be my new row 3. Okay, so 0 times negative 1/3, that's 0. 0 times negative 1/3, that's 0. Okay, 3 times negative 1/3, okay, that's 1. Okay, and 3 times negative 1/3, that's 1. Okay, so that's good. We got 1s all in the diagonal positions, and we got 0s underneath them. Okay, so that's good. So we're well on our way to finding our solution, but now we want to make these top numbers all equal to 0. Okay, and we're done. So the first thing I want to do, I want to make this one equal to 0. Okay. So what I can do is I can take row 3, okay, and multiply it by negative 1 and add it to row 2. Okay, so I'm just going to erase these numbers up here. Okay, so I'm going to take row 3, okay, and multiply it times negative 1 and add it to row 2, and that's going to be my new row 2, like that. Okay, row 1 stays the same, row 3 stays the same. Okay, right. So let's do that. Row 1 stays the same, 1, 2, 1, 8. Okay, row 2, okay, row 1 times negative 1 plus row 2. Okay, so 0 times negative 1, that's 0, so that's going to be 0. 0 times negative 1, that's going to be 0, so that just stays the same. Okay. Now 1 times negative 1, that's negative 1. Negative 1 plus 1, that's 0, and that's what we want. 1 times negative 1, that's negative 1. Negative 1 times 4, negative 1 plus 4, okay, that's 3. Like that. Okay, so that's good. Okay. And row 3 stays the same. 0, 0, 1, 1. Like that. So that's good. We got 2 numbers left. Okay, so we got 1 and 2 right here, up here. Okay, so I want to make them equal to 0. Okay, so let's take that 1 and make them equal to 0. Okay. So I'm going to erase all these numbers down here. Okay, so row 2 stays the same, row 3 stays the same. Okay, so I'm going to take row 3 this time and multiply it times negative 1 and add it to row 1, and that's going to be my new row 1. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, right. So 0 times negative 1, that's 0, plus 1, that stays the same. 0 times negative 1, that's 0, so that stays the same. 1 and 2 stay the same. Okay. 1 times negative 1, that's negative 1. Negative 1 plus 1, that's 0, and that's what we want. Okay. Right. 1 times negative 1, that's negative 1. Negative 1 plus 8, that's 7. Okay, so that's good. Okay. Row 2 stays the same. Row 3 stays the same. 0, 0, 1, 1. Okay, like that. Okay, so we're almost done. Okay, we only have that 2 left to make 0. Okay, so let's do that. I'm going to erase all these numbers. Erase this matrix. Okay. Right, so we want to turn that 2 into 0. Okay, so what I can do, I can take row 2 and multiply it times -3. Okay, and add it to row 1, and that's going to be my new row 1. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, 0 times -2, that's 0, plus 1, that's still 1. Okay, 1 times -2, that's -2, plus 2, that's 0, and that's what we want. 0 times -2 plus 0, that's still 0. Okay, 3 times -2, that's -6. -6 plus 7, that's 1. Okay, like that. Row 2 stays the same, 0, 1, 0, 3. And row 3 stays the same, 0, 0, 1, 1. Okay, like that. So voila, we're done. Okay? So we have our solution. We have 1s in the diagonal positions, and we got 0s everywhere else. Okay? So that's good. That's our solution. This guy right here, this column right here is our solution. Okay? So what we can see here is that the first column is x, the second column is y, and the third column is z, like that. Okay? Right, so I'm going to just erase all of these right here. Okay, like that. And so I can say that x then is equal to 1. Okay, and y is equal to 3. And z is equal to 1. Like that. Okay, and that is our solution. Okay, for this system of equations. Okay, and that is how you solve a system of equations using matrices. Okay? If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel by clicking on the red subscribe button on the right-hand side of this page. Thank you for watching.